This is CGTN, China Global Television Network.
Hello and welcome to Africa Live. I am Peninah Karibe. Condolences have been pouring in from across the world, with several countries sending and offering aid to Lebanon. Rescue teams have also been sifting through rubble for bodies and survivors at the Beirut port. Wednesday's explosion killed at least 100 people and injured 4,000 others.
These sights and sounds have shaken the whole world. Seismologists have described the explosions to be like a 3.3 magnitude earthquake. Rubbles have now replaced the elegant stone buildings, fashionable shopping districts, and long stretches of the once famed seaside promenade. Emergency medical aid and pop-up field hospitals have since been dispatched to Lebanon, along with rescue experts and trafficking dogs, as the world reached out to the victims of the explosions. President Michael Aoun also announced he would release $66 million of emergency funds. As emergency crews hold survivors from the rubble of demolished buildings, many families' hope is to find their missing relatives. Chaum Gono, CGTN.
Lebanon's president has promised a transparent inquiry in the blast. He described the tragedy as unacceptable.
We're determined to investigate and review how things happened, as well as to punish those responsible. I thank all nations who have reached out and expressed their support for Lebanon and its people in this time of distress. I also urge them to speed up assistance to support our hospitals and the affected families, and to help us restore the damage caused to our buildings and the Beirut port.
That unprecedented explosion from a warehouse that stored explosive materials sent shockwaves through the city. The blast destroyed buildings, overturned cars, and left thousands without homes across Greater Beirut. The Prime Minister issued a statement promising to hold those responsible accountable. An investigation continues into what prompted such a catastrophe. Yumna Naufal has more.
Beirut, once titled the Paris of the Middle East, is now broken, with over 300,000 people left homeless. Rescue workers are picking through rubble as tens of people remain missing. The governor of Beirut estimates the damage costs will exceed $3 billion. Some analysts describe it as one of the worst man-made explosions in history.
It looks like Japan in Hiroshima or Nagasaki. This is what this reminds me of. I've never seen this amount of destruction. I appeal to the Lebanese people to hold it together. We are strong and we will stay strong.
President Michel Aoun said the blast was caused by nearly 3,000 tons of ammonium nitrate being stored unsafely in a warehouse in the port area.
The impact, the cost of the destruction, and let's bear in mind that the port is the major route of trade for Lebanon. This is the point through which we got our wheat, our gas oil, our medicine. This infrastructure is totally destroyed at the moment where we are in deep need of $1 single to come into Lebanon.
The country is already facing one of its cruelest summers, with more COVID cases registered in July than in the last 5 months combined. And is it suffering economic turmoil that is plunging the country into crisis?
The explosion is the largest Beirut has ever seen, a city that has already witnessed 16 years of civil war and has endured periodic bombings and terror attacks for years. A city, many residents say, cannot seem to catch a break.
Beirut is still reeling from the aftermath of the explosion as the numbers of casualties and injured keep rising, and public officials are scrambling to find answers for an angry and bewildered public. Yumna Naufal, CGTN, Beirut.
To South Africa now, where the first batch of locally made ventilators has rolled off the assembly line at a plant in Cape Town. The equipment will be sent to hospitals to help treat severely ill COVID-19 patients. Travis Andrews has more.
It's called the CSIR Life, and it's a new South African designed ventilator which is meant to save the lives of those severely affected by COVID-19. The machine is being assembled by Acacia Medical, and it's a non-invasive continuous positive airway pressure device, a unit that the government believes will have the greatest chance of saving lives. It's ordered 20,000 to build up capacity in hospitals who weren't able to source them from overseas markets.
So our involvement with the CSIR Life CPAP project began a little bit over a month ago when we were approached about the possibility of assembling the device and patient circuits for the National Ventilator Project on behalf of CSIR. So Acacia recognized fairly early that this was a national imperative, and we've been happy to assist in getting this project into production.
The ventilators will be used to supply oxygen to ill patients in the country, who currently make up around 5% of overall cases. While final assembly is taking place in Cape Town, some components are being imported, including from China, and production of the assembly line is being stepped up.
We have 150 units which are ready to basically go into the sterilizer. They are going to be sterilized during the course of tonight. It is our intention by the end of this week to have approximately 1,000. In terms of the order quantities, at this moment in time, we are looking to produce 10,000 of the units, but that could go up as demand requires.
South Africa's Department of Trade and Industry is leading the efforts to have these ventilators built, and it comes as the number of positive cases hit more than 500,000. COVID-19 has not only struck South Africa hard, but it's also affecting the rest of the African continent as well. And that has put the ventilator being manufactured at this facility in high demand.
We actually do believe that once the local demands have been met, we'll move into the next phase, which is producing units for relief required in other African countries that have been affected by the pandemic, as we have.
When our production continues in earnest of these life-saving machines that will play an important role in dealing COVID-19 a fatal blow. Travis Andrews, CGTN, Cape Town.
At least 3,000 Tunisian migrants have reached Italian shores and the island of Lampedusa over the past 5 weeks. That's according to the Italian Interior Ministry and the authorities in Tunis. The COVID-19 pandemic appears not to have discouraged women, children and even elderly people from attempting the risky journey to reach Europe.
The Defense and Interior Ministries in Tunisia have warned against the increasing wave of irregular migration in recent weeks. President Qais Said visited the main departure points at the ports of Sfax and Mahdia. He declared that irregular migration is a domestic problem.
The Tunisian state must put to an end the economic and social reasons for irregular migration. People are risking their lives to reach European shores. I know that you lack the logistical means to stop this wave of migration. We'll make sure that you get what you need to thwart irregular migration attempts.
The regional authorities have thwarted dozens of irregular migration attempts in the coastal regions of Sfax, Mahdia and Kirkina. The Marine and the National Guards organized a campaign in the Mediterranean and within the country's maritime borders to control the wave of irregular migration during this period of the year, which favors this activity due to good weather conditions.
More and more Tunisian citizens are risking their lives at sea. They are pursuing a dream which is in reality a nightmare because they could die in this misadventure. The state does not allow such irresponsible behavior. Our Marine and National Guard forces are deployed to block any irregular migration attempt.
The Interior Minister added that the solution to the current crisis must not be focused on the security aspect solely.
Our message to Tunisian youth is that hope is still possible in Tunisia. Dying in the Mediterranean will not solve their problems. I've talked to some illegal migrants who were saved by the Coast Guard. The majority are 17 and 18-year-old. They are desperate. Illegal migrants don't see any future at home. Tunisia must provide jobs for its youth and improve their social and economic conditions.
The Tunisian government announced that the logistical and human resources available to coast guards in the regions of Sfax, Mahdia and Nebel were increased as part of the fight against irregular migration. Authorities have also urged the European Union to support the North African states' campaign in the Mediterranean. Following the 2011 social unrest in Tunisia, over 25,000 people reached the Italian island of Lampedusa in just 4 weeks. Now that the North African state faces unprecedented social and economic problems, authorities in Tunis and Rome want to prevent a similar scenario from happening this summer. Adnan Shawishi, CGTN, Tunis.
Refugees often face the risk of human trafficking as well as violence and sexual abuse. Samrawit, an Eritrean migrant, was held captive for nearly 2 years in Libya as she attempted to find a better life for herself. She was later evacuated to Rwanda, where she is receiving psychosocial care to help her heal from the trauma. Daniela Pearson brings us the details.
Samrawit was just 18 when it happened. She was abducted by human traffickers and faced a 2-year ordeal of torture and sexual abuse. This happened while she was searching for refuge while attempting to leave Eritrea. One of her close relatives had fled military conscription there, and she was afraid of conscription herself. The kidnappers took her to a town in Sudan, near the border with Libya.
When I remember that moment, I feel terrible. First, they took us by force on our way to the market. They told us we are going to Libya. Second, they raped us and threatened us with knives and guns.
She was later held for 2 months in a traffickers' camp in southeast Libya. Her captors demanded $6,000 for her freedom. After being bought and sold by different groups of smugglers, her family eventually paid twice that amount. This was to cover the ransom as well as a spot on a boat to Europe. However, Samrawit's troubles did not end there. Last July, smugglers attempted to cross the Mediterranean Sea with 350 migrants, including Samrawit. During their journey, their boat sank. Samrawit managed to swim for 8.5 hours until she was found by the Libyan Coast Guard. She was taken to a detention center in Libya until the UN eventually evacuated her and others to Rwanda a few months later. Migrants rescued from Libya now live in the Gashora Transit Center on the outskirts of the capital Kigali. Most come from Eritrea, Somalia and Sudan and have been given asylum seeker status. Daniela Pearson, CGTN.
You're watching Africa Live. Let's take a short break. Coming up. Rising water levels escalate human-wildlife conflict around Kenya's Lake Naivasha region. And in our continuing series, Made in Africa, we take you to South Africa for an encounter with gifted painters and sculptors.
You don't find the stories of North Africa by sitting on the sidelines. You've got to get out, go there, and you'll find them. In the bazaars of Casablanca, among the crowds in Cairo,
who come to visit Cairo, the ancient capital of Egypt.
Along the waters of the Nile, along the sands of the Sahara. No one else will take you where we can in North Africa. No one else will show you what it's all about. CGTN, see the difference.
Hungry fishermen and angry hippos are fighting for survival in Kenya's Lake Naivasha. Animal attacks on humans have increased as rising water levels push them closer towards human settlements. Communities are calling on the Kenya Wildlife Service to help mitigate the emerging human-wildlife crisis. Nick Mudimba has the details.
Early every morning, these men get set to their fishing nets to go fishing in dangerous territory filled by violent hippos. They look happy and ready for the next fishing mission, but don't be deceived by the smiles on their faces. It's a survival battle. In Africa, of all large animals, hippos are the biggest killers of humans. They take no prisoners. With raised water levels, vegetation has diminished pastures for the killer mammals. The conflict just got to another level. Hungry fishermen and angry hippos. Population of different fish species has rapidly increased, making it easier for food fishes. But that's when the hippos strike.
I met the hippo just as I was about to start fishing. I had my equipment on one side and my clothes on the other. The hippo charged towards me and my left hand was fully inside its jaws. I told myself that this animal can't kill me in broad daylight. I had to fight it off by covering its eyes with a jacket, and I took off.
Charles Kibati was fishing just on the shores of the lake. His story was a close shave. He hadn't rattled the animal, but he faced a ruthless and violent hippo which charged at him.
I was attacked by the hippo just outside the lake. The hippo came from nowhere. It was deep. It saw me, though I didn't see it. At that time, I was able-bodied. The hippo was very fast and it caught my hand. It twisted me twice and I fell in a ditch. It looked for me around and left the scene.
For Cyrus Smoke, he had started fishing at 5 a.m. A hippo pulled him out of the boat by grabbing his hand. The injuries he sustained conspicuously reminds him of the deadly ordeal.
Most of the time they attack when they have little calves. They defend them by getting rid of you.
Our efforts to reach the Kenya Wildlife Service for the animal-human conflict resulted in a statement insisting they have put in place elaborate management approaches to prevent and mitigate human-wildlife conflict, as well as managing problem animals. These include erection of wildlife barriers, mapping of hotspots areas for strategic deployments, translocation of problem animals, use of collars, especially on the endangered species, for monitoring and conservation education. Now, the risks the fishermen are putting themselves here is mind-boggling. They just hope that the authorities will come to their aid and prevent the frequent attacks, because the hippos are jealous and territorial. Nick Mudimba, CGTN, Naivasha, Kenya.
My family has been doing this artwork for the past 600 years.
My dream is to be the leading player in Africa in the spice sector.
Nobody in the region consumes it. Even me cannot afford the vanilla cooking.
What we've created here is the elegance, the color, the celebration of life.
For 34 years, Erdmo Studios has crafted original ceramics that have provided income to feed many families in KwaZulu-Natal province in South Africa. Trained by Erdmo's founder, Faye Holstead, 80 painters and sculptors transform African art into ornamental pieces. Items have been sold by Christie's and Sotheby's. Despite its international success, it has remained true to its roots, trained and developed local artists, as well as caring for a community hit hard by HIV/AIDS. Today, this studio is an institution in South Africa and continues to shape and change people's lives.
I was angry. I wanted to teach people, and I thought, well, if I can't teach privileged whites, I'm going to help people who don't have opportunity. My name is Faye Halstead. I grew up in Zimbabwe, and I came to study fine arts in South Africa. and I was lecturing. I majored in painting and started working in ceramics, and I was lecturing in Durban, and I lost my job. I was angry. I wanted to teach people, and I thought, well, if I can't teach privileged whites, I'm going to help people who don't have opportunity. And I started working with Bonnie and Chalanchali, our maid's daughter. It's been a fairy tale story. It's grown now to include about 80 people, and we live here at Caversham in KwaZulu-Natal. I didn't choose to make Ardmore so detailed and intricate. What we did by working with the Zulu culture is they have always created the most exquisite craft. This beautiful, colorful brand of Ardmore, I think what it is that this continent and this country is so rich in so much elegance, sophistication. It is inspiration for artists. Picasso, so many artists have been to Africa to get inspired. It's the rawness of it. And what we've created here for Ardmore is the elegance, the color, the celebration of life. And for me, that is what has been Ardmore's success. Through the years, we've just grown and grown and grown, and we've developed the most amazing work. I don't think there's anything like it in the world. And to see people start at Ardmore, I say, remember this day. They come, they've lost their parents from HIV, many of them have. We got hit hard with HIV with the artists in 1985 was one of our first artists died, and we worked really hard with them, but in those days nobody wanted to talk about it. So many of my artists, we lost at least 40 wonderful, wonderful artists, including Bonnie. It was very painful to lose these artists at the time, and I took a very positive approach. I made a hospital at the studio, and I kept artists with me close. We nursed them. Now, since 2010, most of the artists are on antiretrovirals, and they've lived very well with being HIV positive, and we haven't lost one artist. My children grew up with Ardmore. My two daughters are very, very creative. They studied fine art, also in Pietermaritzburg University, and my son studied business. When he'd finished school, I said, you know, I can't really leave you much, but we could have fun starting a new business. And why don't we take these fabulous designs off the ceramics and turn them into fabric? And we started that business in about 10 years ago now. And it's been such a fun journey working with the kids, and my daughters are the designers. And in fact, in 2013, we were discovered by Hermès, the French wonderful luxury brand in Paris, and Catherine has designed the most exquisite scarves for them. And then also 2-3 years ago, we were discovered by Cole & Son in New York. Our work was discovered there, and we've produced the most fantastic and one of their most popular selling wallpaper designs that we did with them. And in fact, in 2021, we're going to launch this #2 collection. So that's very, very exciting. I think our worldwide success has come about because we've produced a new visual. It's a bit quirky. It's raw, it's naive, in a beautiful sense of life. This feeling of what we've achieved here, I cannot tell you what it feels like. I lie in bed at night and I go, sure, I've done something good, you know, something in my wildest dreams has happened, but it's come from hard work and dedication. What is my dream is to continue, to just see that once I'm gone, the Ardmore studio and the artists and their children have continuity, and to put steps and measures in place that they become self-reliant on me. So my visual is for me to be able to step back and to watch my teachings come out.
You're watching Africa Live. Time now for the day's business news. We cross over to Uche for the latest.
Thanks, Peninah. And coming up on Africa Live Biz. South Africa's state weapons manufacturer ordered to pay full staff wages. And a Tanzanian miner who became an overnight millionaire gets another lucky strike.
Africa is the nexus of enterprise, and global business will tell you why it matters.
From the mega investment projects to multi-billion-dollar mergers and acquisitions.
Africa today collects, just in terms of revenues from taxes alone, $545 billion a year. If you take 10% of that and you devote it to the energy sector, problem solved.
All this on Global Business, weekdays at this time on CGTN.
Africa Live. Find your voice.
Well, let's start off in South Africa. The country's state defense firm Denel has been ordered by the Labour Court to pay its workers' outstanding salaries from May, June and July before this Friday. Now, trade union Solidarity and UASA took action against the firm after the weapons manufacturer failed to pay their salaries in full. The company has struggled to pay staff wages amidst a liquidity crisis, which has been aggravated by the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, Denel is one of a number of struggling state enterprises that the government has been keeping afloat with bailouts. The company is now expected to meet statutory obligations, such as making payments to its employee pension funds, which of course it has also struggled to do in recent months. Meanwhile, Africa's biggest supermarket chain, ShopRite, has disclosed that it is considering pulling out of Nigeria. The South African-owned retailer said it was looking at selling all or a majority stake of its operations in the country. Two other South African brands, clothing firms, Mr. Price and Woolworths, have long left Nigeria. Here's CGTN's Deji Badmus with more.
It was a big deal when it opened its first outlet in Nigeria in 2005. Literally everyone wanted to shop at ShopRite. The retail outlet basically drove other existing local retailers underground with its eye-catching stores and cheaper prices. But 15 years on, 26 additional outlets, ShopRite is now calling it a day in Nigeria. The South African retail giant says lockdown restrictions because of coronavirus had affected its operations in 14 African countries, including Nigeria, with sales declining by 1.4% in those markets. But some experts say the retail outlets' troubles in Nigeria go beyond that.
We already have Nigerian supermarkets that even ShopRite themselves included in the reasons why they found that the market was almost so profitable, that increasing competition in the market had made it less profitable. And that competition is largely Nigerian-owned supermarkets. They're largely, in fact, you may only count one supermarket chain that is not Nigerian, that is giving ShopRite all that competition to the point of making them want to leave.
Whatever the case, economic analysts say the decision by the retail giant to pull out of Africa's biggest market does not paint a positive picture for Nigeria.
It sends a negative signal to the investing community globally. So it has a negative or adverse signaling effect, for Nigeria as an investment destination.
ShopRite has been by far the biggest retail supermarket in Nigeria for the past decade, opening outlets in several Nigerian cities. But in the last 5 years, it's faced some very stiff competition from some local retailers who have since bounced back after their initial displacement by the retail giant. There's also the issue of repatriation of funds. With scarcity of forex in Nigeria, foreign investors have found it quite challenging repatriating funds to their home country.
From the point of view of economic management, we need to worry about our foreign exchange policy, because it is not going to be easy to be able to retain foreign investors here or to attract new investors if you continue to have challenges with our foreign exchange policy.
The exit of ShopRite might not necessarily mean the exit of that brand name from Nigeria. The firm says it is in talks with potential investors. Now, depending on how that process goes,
that potential investor might decide to keep the name as a franchise, because that name has come to mean a lot for many of its customers in this country. Deji Badmos, CGTN, Lagos, Nigeria.
Now, the retail chain ShopRite has also disclosed plans to lay off about 115 workers and close its second branch here in Kenya. This marks the second cut in less than 5 months, citing reduced flow of shoppers. Of course, ShopRite, which opened its first store in Kenya in 2018, has informed the Workers' Union of the closure of the City Mall branch in Kenya's coastal city of Mombasa. Now, elsewhere in Kenya, Nairobi's Dandora dump site has been the center of commerce for many who are struggling to make ends meet. Amongst them are hairdressers who scavenge the dump site for hair extensions to be reintroduced back to the market. CGTN's Terry Wangari reports.
Julia Wanja has been selling second-hand hair for over a decade. She says there is more demand now since many people cannot afford new extensions.
I started in this hair business in 2008 by plaiting second-hand hair. If you come with new hair or second-hand hair, I weave it on you. So I realized that many people like to use second-hand hair because of the economic state. Clients come with second-hand hair because it is way cheaper than new hair.
She regularly picks her way delicately through piles of food waste, discarded masks, rubber gloves and other rubbish at Nairobi's Dandora dump site, looking for used hair extensions she can clean and resell to customers.
You pick the hair according to the state you find it in and decide whether it's good or not good. Some of you just see and know that they are not good enough and you leave them. When the hair gets here, also the customers pick what they like.
The pandemic means fewer clients with less money, and she's cutting down on costs by cleaning and reselling hair from the dump site.
First thing after getting the hair from wherever I get it is to wash the hair and make it neat. But when a client picks it, I always wash the hair again when they are here to their satisfaction, because it gets even cleaner when I go piece by piece as opposed to washing it in a bunch. So I prefer a customer to pick and I wash again.
Wanja says she washes the used hair extensions carefully using detergent, Dettol and hot water. She says most of her customers trust her to wash the hair well, although a few like to clean it themselves as well. Her customers say as long as the hair has been cleaned, they don't mind where it's from, since, after all, the hair looks new.
According to the current state of affairs in these COVID-19 times, getting your hair done is like trying to buy new hair from the shop. It makes more sense, but we must get our hair made.
Wanja is among many in the beauty industry trying to make ends meet through this dump site, even if it means putting herself and her customers at risk of contracting not only COVID-19, but other communicable diseases as well.
Everyone who comes to pick hair that has been disposed of picks it and goes to sell it so that they can earn a living. Here at our industry, at our dump site, we cannot allow someone to get it without a mask. That is the first thing. Even if you look around, we're all wearing masks. When we're breaking off for lunch, we must wash our hands and sanitize.
Despite dump site officials insisting that the areas are sanitized, the situation is worrying to say the least. One has to wonder, has the pandemic come with poor sanitization practices, or has it highlighted a problem that already existed? Terry Wangari, CGTN.
And in Tanzania, a small-scale miner who became an overnight millionaire back in June has sold another gem worth about $2 million. Now, Saninu Laser previously sold 2 rough Tanzanite stones valued at $3.4 million in a June discovery. This latest third discovery weighed about 6.3 kgs. Tanzanite is one of the rarest gemstones and is only found in Tanzania. Geologists estimate the supply may be entirely depleted within the next 20 years. These stones' appeal lies in its variety of hues, including green, red, purple, and blue. Its value is determined by rarity. The finer the color or clarity, and the higher the price.
I'm begging my fellow miners that we should be patriotic, follow the rules and regulations, and commit ourselves to work hard so that we may prosper.
We Tanzanians have decided that minerals should first benefit us as a country. It's enough for us being brokers to others and let our minerals go and benefit others while our communities remain poor. For example, in many mining areas, business has gone up. Even in areas where there was no business, things have now changed.
Well, that is all for now on Africa Live Biz, but coming up later on Global Business Africa, investment projects worth at least $742 million are on hold in South Africa due to its ban on the sale of alcohol. We'll, of course, be looking at what the decision means for the nation. All that coming up top of the hour. For now, it is back to Peninah.
Thank you, Uche. You're watching Africa Live, still ahead. A fashion enthusiast in Kenya uses his colorful suits to help brighten the lives of children suffering under lockdown.
darum ko ngakaini tangkana nuku kometa ko ata isesa ismai kama ngai kama kuru.
Africa Live. Find your voice.
An Egyptian restaurant has started using a robot waiter to limit contact during the coronavirus pandemic. The North African country has so far reported nearly 95,000 cases of COVID-19 and almost 5,000 deaths.
Meet Mozo. The robot waits tables at this restaurant in a bid to attract customers during the coronavirus pandemic. Adorned with its own name tag, tie and apron, it is programmed to take orders and deliver meals to tables.
We deploy him based on the table number. Let me show you. So, we're selecting the table, and based on social distancing rules, we have only 10 tables. So, we select any table number. Then, it asks for a passkey, just to make sure that it's the waiter who is sending it, and no one is messing with it. We add the passcode, and it's very simple.
Mozo works side by side with human staff, whose role is to confirm each table's order, as well as place the food platters on the robot's specially designed trays. The robot was designed to look as friendly as possible for Egyptians not used to being around a robot.
It is a very good idea. Given the circumstances we are in right now in the country, everyone is afraid. Almost no one leaves their homes. People in restaurants have become much less.
When the problem of the coronavirus began in Egypt, Egyptian culture started thinking more about social distancing. With Kimbo, we started thinking about suitable solutions that the Egyptian market would like.
Launched at Kimbo Restaurant and Cafe in Cairo, Mozo is the only robot in Egypt waiting tables so far.
We were talking to a company here in Egypt, the company that owns the robot, and they said, why not use it for social distancing? They started developing it further, so instead of using touch mode to make orders, it now has sensors. We are depending more on it for social distancing.
Egypt has allowed cafes and restaurants to return to work after some coronavirus control measures were lifted. They have, however, been ordered to close at midnight and limit their capacity to half. Thuli Shabalala, CGTN.
Let's go to Kenya's capital, Nairobi, where we meet James Maina, whose colorful suits are drawing attention. The Kenyan fashion enthusiast hopes to help brighten the lives of street children suffering under lockdown.
He's the self-proclaimed best-dressed man in Africa. And now James Maina has jumped at the chance to add a new item to his outfits, a mask to match.
I started to buy clothes, and I have 160 suits, 200 pairs of shoes, 300 hats, and many other things.
But for Mwangi, who lives in Kenya's capital, Nairobi, it's not just about looking good. The 59-year-old fashionista wants to use his local celebrity status to help street children at a time when lockdown measures have made life harder. He's already given some of his clothes away, but now he's calling on others to help.
So I am asking all people of goodwill to join me in supporting street children, orphans, as there are too many problems now due to COVID-19. Money is scarce in the country.
Mwangi earns a living organizing Nairobi's infamous matatu buses. He drew curious reactions when he first started dressing with flair 25 years ago. At the age of 12, he dropped out of school as his parents couldn't afford. He recalls people laughing at him because he had only one shirt.
I used to tell them, one day I will be a star, and they thought I was mad.
Today, he says people emulate him, as a lot more men are wearing bright clothes. But he maintains that he is still number one.
I'm the best.
And coming up in sports, we focus on strength and agility sports in our special series on the postponed Tokyo Olympic Games.
How would you create your legend? On the fields, on the tracks, in the arenas of Africa. Were you born to be a player? Could this moment be yours? Sports Scene. Find your game.
Africa Live. Find your voice.
Sports is not all about the physical. It is also a calculation of the next move with precision. All the athletes in the Olympics pose unmatched skill, strength and prowess. But what sets them apart is their mastery of how to combine tact with the twists and turns. CGTN's Richard Cyril Ntar joins us with the second installment of CGTN Africa's special series 2020 Olympics Dreams Live On.
Yes, indeed. For a special group of athletes, strength and agility is the name of the game. And like all those who qualified for the Tokyo 2020 Games, these sports persons have been forced to flex their muscles for another year. Let's find out what they've been up to and the challenges they've had to face to remain in shape. Despite being injured and forced to retire after only 2 throws at the Rio 2016 Javelin Finals, Julius Yego did enough to leave Brazil with an Olympics silver medal. Well, having struggled with form since, the pioneering Kenyan athlete whipped himself back to shape only for the 2020 Tokyo Olympics to be postponed. Our correspondent CGT and Sadiq Shaban brings us more.
The last few months have been unprecedented for Julius Yego. Even for a professional athlete used to the elements, he's been forced to adjust drastically to the new reality.
I'm confined to my compound, just to training. And yes, when Corona came, that was in March, of course, when the first case was reported in Kenya, and then everything was closed, schools were closed, stadiums were closed. So I say maybe the best place, the safest place for me to be with my children and family is to stay home. So we left Nairobi and then we came home. So this is the place I've been. And it's being hell, At the first 2 months, I had no place to train. I was just in my compound with my family.
The 2015 World Javelin Champion has been using his new set of gym equipment recently donated by the Athletics World Governing Body. Working out at home has attracted enthusiasm from his youngest supporter and son, Finn Keegan.
Sometimes when I'm doing this kind of training here at home and then, it reaches a point where I want to take a bit of rest. He will come and tell me, no, Daddy, fanya. So he encourages me as well, and I think maybe he will follow my footsteps when he grows up. And he is forever with me whenever I'm doing anything. As you can see now, I'm sure he doesn't know what is happening, but he knows that there must be something going on here. He's always jovial and encouraging.
What Diego got for us in the third. Oh, he's really chucked himself at that. Oh, hello. That's way beyond...
Popularly known as a YouTube athlete, Julius Yego stormed to the top of the game in the world 5 years ago during the World Athletics Championships in Beijing, China. The last 4 years have been the best of his life so far, before 2020 changed everything. The African Games champion has found himself isolated and lonely. He has become his own coach once again, spending time training days on end, alone in this vast sporting facility.
We're just training to keep our bodies, get used to the real thing. Like for me, I have to train, coming here to throw javelin, just not to lose that rhythm and, and not to lose my technique. Because now we can't train in the stadium because of the rules we have, because of Corona. And yeah, I enjoy this training alone in such this big, field, very beautiful, and just training alone, a very big social distance from myself.
In the finals of the javelin throw at the last Olympic Games in Brazil, Yego's throw of 88.24 meters was his first and best attempt, but also his last before he was injured. He settled for silver medal behind Germany's Thomas Roller. He wanted more this year before the Olympic Games were postponed.
I'm looking forward to next year, having a very good season, ending in a very high note in Olympics. So I'm just looking forward to next year. I think it will be a special year for me. I have that confidence that I will come back again stronger with big performance.
Until the 2021 Olympic Games begin in Japan as rescheduled, Julius Yego will spend the next 1 year sharpening his skills and turning his focus towards history. Having been sidelined from the sport by the outbreak of coronavirus pandemic in 2020, the Kenyan javelin champion knows only too well that his aim can only be sky high. In the game of throws in Africa, no one knows best about the sticks than the current African javelin champion, Julius Yego. The former world champion, who is also the reigning Olympic silver medalist, says he's fully recovered from a nagging hip injury and is looking forward to a golden upgrade in the 2021 Olympic Games in Japan. Sadiq Shaban, CGTN, at the Eldoret Sports Club in Kenya.
We spoke to our correspondent, Sadiq Shaban, who joins us from the University of Champions, E10, Kenya, to tell us his experience documenting these remarkable athletes, the unique challenges they face, and their thoughts on the postponed Tokyo 2020 Olympics.
So on one hand, you have Kenyans who have qualified for Olympic Games waiting a year to compete, and those who haven't qualified for Olympic Games saying the year out of Olympic Games is sufficient time to give them enough time to qualify and improve their performance going into the rescheduled games in 2021.
Right, Sadiq, speaking of 2021, let's talk more about the psychology of the athletes. What are their thoughts and feelings about the upcoming 2021 Olympics?
Richard, I spoke to some athletes the few days I've been here, and some were pretty much disappointed earlier on when they heard the president of International Olympics Committee, Thomas Bach, saying that the spread of coronavirus into Africa was one of the reasons for the postponement of the game. So they felt a little bit unsure about those comments, particularly targeting Africa. So they're saying they're not so sure whether they're looking forward in some respect to their rescheduled games, because it appears as if the postponement of the games in March didn't have their interest at heart per se. But that as it may, some are actually looking forward to a better organized games and particularly better African qualifying tournaments for the 2021 games.
Let's talk about your experiences. You had been forced to postpone your shoot for the stories a couple of times. As a reporter, what challenges did COVID-19 pose to you while pursuing your stories? And generally, what is the challenge of content creation during a pandemic?
Richard, we've been here just very few days, and as you mentioned, we initially began planning for the trip down here in June, would you believe it? And it's not until last week that we were able to secure our travel here, and the reasons really are quite abnormal, if you will, the new normal, as they say. First of all, Richard, it was very difficult to get appointments for interviews and get approval to meet the athletes, because as I mentioned, the athletics camps are closed, so athletes broke camp and some moved out of these areas and went back to their rural homes. And Richard, we had situations where we made phone calls that were never answered, and we sent text messages that were never replied to by athletes who were fearing what the many unknowns about coronavirus. As you know, it's still a learning curve for a lot of people, so they were not very sure how to engage with us. So as a content producer and as a content generator, it becomes very difficult when you're not able to get into that one-on-one space or a close space with athletes. In an instance, we got a feedback from one athlete who told us, please bring your COVID-19 certificate, testing certificate, for us to be sure that you're okay. And we had to really look back at what that meant in terms of a new realities. But the opportunities that present itself also for us as professionals is to learn to cope and to do with what is presented to us at this particular time of the coronavirus pandemic.
All right, Sadiq Shaban, excellent reporting. Thank you for that update and report. Speak to you soon. On today's special segment, Olympics in History, we take a look at the first African country to ever participate in the Olympics.
Cameroon, first time they've been represented in Olympic competition, makes their appearance here dressed in their native costumes of the Cameroons.
Did you know, before independence, Africans participated under the flags of their respective colonial powers? But in the 1960s, more African countries joined the Olympic Games. This is because many African states were attaining their independence.
It only remains for me to present to you, Mr. Prime Minister, these constitutional instruments which establish Kenya's independence.
Currently, African countries have been long-time members of the modern Olympic Games. So which was the first African country in the Olympics and in which year? South Africa was the first to participate in the Olympic Games in 1908 officially. But the country was banned from the Olympics in 1964 due to apartheid. For 30 years, the country did not participate in Olympics up until 1990, when negotiations to end apartheid commenced. Since then, South Africa has continued to send many sportsmen and women into the Olympics, and in the postponed Tokyo 2020 Games, South Africa ranked the first in Africa with the majority of participants.
And that'll do it for this special coverage of The Olympic Dream Lives On. Join us tomorrow to see how Africa's athletes are coping and training during these COVID-19 times. Back to you in studio.
In football news, Fulham have made an immediate return to the English Premier League. 2 extra-time goals from fullback Joe Bryan gave them a 2-1 win over Brentford in the Championship playoff final at an empty Wembley Stadium on Tuesday. Bryan opened the scoring near the end of the first period of extra time when he spotted Brentford goalkeeper David Raya out of position and anticipating a cross from his deep free kick before cleverly driving the ball into the bottom corner. Bryan made sure of the victory with a second goal 3 minutes from the end of the second period of extra time. And Rick Dalsgaard pulled a goal back for Brentford in the final seconds, but there was no time for a recovery by the Bees.
This team 15 months ago was a team that lost most weeks. Everyone could see that from the outside. You can easily judge that. We let in a lot of goals. What you didn't see and what people don't understand is a deep-rooter issue at the football club, which had some real gaping wounds and had some real issues. And along the way, we've pushed and pushed and pushed, tried to change a mentality, trying to change a real way about us because we knew how important it was, but trying to balance that with an expectation of you're expected to win a league by 20 points after, which was a disappointing team, has been the balance constantly. And I'm proud because I see a team that has transformed. I also see a team that we're still learning and still growing and we still need to improve, but I just feel proud at the moment.
And that's it for this edition of Africa Live. We'd love to hear from you. Send your feedback to the contacts on the screen and follow us on our digital media platforms. I'm Peninah Karibe. Thanks for watching. Stand by for Global Business. It's coming up next with Uche.